What's up guys, Manny from Motomillion, and we got some gold chains. Guys, when I say gold chains, I'm not talking about some big Miami links or Cuban links. What I'm talking about is our sprocket and chain setup for this bike. As you guys know, we're on an endeavor to get the bike ready for the dyno, and you're probably asking, why are we doing the chain on a dyno? We'll get to that, but let me first show you the parts that we're going to be using on this bike. And some of these are new parts that we haven't shown to you before, because if you guys have been following any of our builds or any builds that we're involved with, we always use the EK3D chain, with the exception now with the DID ERV7 chain. We're pretty adamant about using the EK3D chain because of the tensile strength that that chain has. And these bikes nowadays make so much torque, you really want to be careful, especially switching to a 520. That being said, a lot of people were actually skeptical of 520 chains on these modern leader bikes, and it was a big debate if it's going to be safe enough. That's all put aside now, because number one, we do our research. The tensile strength is even higher than the stock 525 chains that come on these bikes. But furthermore, companies like BMW and also Ducati, on their special models now, to save weight, they're running the 520 chains on there as well. And why are we using the EK ERV7 chain? We're using this chain because the BMWs now are coming in longer links than 120 links, because before, if you're a BMW guy, you'd know that the M1000 and the S1000 had 120 link chains. And that was easy with the EK3D, because the EK3D comes in 120 links and 150 links. You just get a 120 link. You don't have to cut it before you put it on there. You get it on there. It's easy and simple. But now I believe it's 124 or 126 links. I have to verify that. But the DID chain is the only chain that comes in 130 link. And I think it's a tiny little bit lighter than the EK3D chain. And for our sprockets, we have two setups right here. We have the super light steel and the aluminum sprocket. The difference is this one wears faster, it's a lot lighter, and this one is a little heavier, still lighter than the stock steel sprocket, but this lasts a longer time. I haven't really decided which one to go with yet. That's why I have them both here and I want to show it to you. And these COTA sprockets last longer than regular aluminum sprockets because they have a duraluminum coating. That's hard to say, but it's the coating that's on there supposed to make it last longer. And obviously when we're doing this, we're going to change our front sprockets as well. And we're going to put our pro-tie sprocket nuts. We have our safety washer for the front sprocket, and all of these parts, guys, are available on our website. The links will be in the description below for all of our videos. It's there for you guys to quickly access it. Also, we're using a new tool, which is the DID chain tool. This is a little pricey compared to the Motion Pro PBR tool that we use, but this is supposedly easier to use. We're going to give it a try and test it out. And while we're changing our sprocket, we're going to remove our quick shifter. And this is a good time now to run our Alpha Racing quick shifter. I'm not going to go into details right now. We'll talk about it when we get there. But I want to show you guys something. So why are we doing the chain and sprocket before we go on a dyno? You guys might not believe this. It makes a big difference on how much power is delivered to that rear wheel. How big of a difference? I have something special here for you guys. This is from the HRC MotoGP bike that ran a COTA this year for MotoGP. And this is the chain. The chain is unbranded. They did not let us know what it is, but they were nice enough to give us the chain. A chain on the MotoGP bikes lasts only a race day. And why is this? We asked them, and the race engineer told us something. They said that you have no idea how much of a difference it makes when you run a new chain that's lubricated and really cleaned well versus a chain that might not be as new. So that's why we're changing our sprocket and chain setup on the bike, because we want to put a fresh chain on there that we know is going to be able to deliver the maximum power to the rear wheel. And furthermore, obviously when we ride these bikes, we always clean our chains after each ride to make sure that there's no dirt in there, it's lubricated well, and obviously makes it last longer. So now that you guys know why we're changing our chain and sprockets on the bike, less talking, more working. Let me cut this chain off and let's start off. So guys, we just cut our chain. The first test that we did with our tool was to see how well the braking pin works. This was actually surprisingly easy. I think one thing to note is that this tool kind of holds itself in place when you're doing the work. That's the biggest difference that I could see for ease of use versus the PBR chain tool. And if you saw this thing, because you need a 27 mil and a 19 mil to work this tool, we don't have a 27 mil wrench. And you're probably wondering, why is this cut? There's a little story behind it. We have a Mini Cooper track car here at Motomillion. We needed to change the oil pressure sensor on that car, and you needed a special tool to do it. We didn't have the time to wait for the tool. We just made our own tool. That's why it's missing the chunk off of it. Now, before we go further, I'm going to take the rear wheel off, I'm going to take the front sprocket off, and I'm going to show you a really clever tool that's made by Alpha Racing that's now available to get your front sprocket off this bike and to properly torque your front sprocket. So this is that little tool that I'm talking about. This locks your front sprocket in place, and it sits right here. So it has a side that says open and close. So you just put it in like this. This locks the sprocket. We just got to take our safety washer off, and now we could easily take this nut off of here without having to worry about putting the bike in gear or holding it, because even if when it's in gear, when you're torquing this, it's not when you're taking it off, but when you're torquing that sprocket nut, it still spins the engine because the torque is so high. But this is a lifesaver. It's a brand new tool that just came out, and I'm happy to be able to use it. Let's try this. Usually we use an impact to get this out, but now super easy, didn't even spin. Earlier I tried it without our little tool in place, and I was able to spin the engine before even I could break this loose. Now I'm surprised how simple it was. It almost felt that this wasn't tight enough, but it definitely was because I tried it earlier. And that's our front sprocket off. And by the way, you could technically reuse the safety washer if you want, but I would hate to have something that's already bent. You could probably hammer it to flatten it out, and they're so cheap. And they're also available, so whenever you're picking up a sprocket kit for your bike, you could always add this to your cart as well. Now that the front sprocket is off, let's weigh it in. It's 227 grams for the stock front sprocket. And let's check our new sprocket that we're going to run. It's 201 grams. And we'll get the final counts at the end when we'll tally everything up to see how much weight we save with the 520 kit that we're putting on this bike. And let me show you guys the cool bit that comes with the M1000, which is the quick change rear wheel setup. Means I could take this out, and I think theoretically the wheel's gonna stay on, which it did. Now all I gotta do is pick this rear wheel up. There we go, and back. And it's hitting the caliper still. There you go. That wheel is out. The rear sprocket, guys, it's a 46, so again, a little bit of info on the 2023 bikes. I'm not sure about the M1000s, but the S1000s were always 1745 before. Now all the 2023 and newer S1000RRs are 1746 setup. And again, on our website, make sure that if you're ordering parts for your 2023, we have a 2023 specific section so that you guys will get the correct gearing and all that stuff that fits on your 2023 model year. So the rear sprocket is, the stock one is 711 grams. Let's get a weight of our super light. I'll even leave it in the packaging just to see. It's 689 with the packaging. I bet you it's probably closer to the lower 600s, but I'm going to be running the COTA aluminum sprocket on this bike. I really like the color, but also I think it's not a problem for us to change the rear sprocket if it wears down quicker than the steel one. Let's measure this. Our COTA sprocket is 318 grams. And I'm going to measure our sprocket nuts. We're going to be running the Pro-Tie titanium nuts. Let's see. That is 72 grams. For the stock ones. And let's measure a Pro-Tie. Sprocket nuts are 41 grams. 42 grams, guys. And why am I measuring in grams? Grams are a little more accurate because between 1 gram and 2 gram, we could do ounces, but it's going to be a lot easier to calculate at the end. My OCD is killing me, guys. I wanted to make sure that this COTA at least either is straight with the M Carbon or the Motorrad. You don't have to do that, but I just want to see if you could get it straight up on with it. And this is not required by the service manual, guys, but I'm still going to put a tiny little dot of medium thread lock on there, which is the blue color in this case, just so that we have some sort of a safety margin on there. Because if you take a look at these stock nuts, these things are locking nuts. And yes, we're going to torque them to spec and put some thread check on there as well, but I think maybe it's good measure to put just medium strength thread lock on there when you're putting your sprocket nuts on, and also make sure that you're torquing them to the correct spec. Our sprocket is torqued and on there. Let's put our wheel back on. Let's see if it's as easy to put it back on as it was to take it out. Now that the wheel is on, you're probably wondering what these orange dots are. That's what we call the thread checker. I apply it to the sprockets usually so that I can get a quick visual to see if this sprocket nut ever loosened, because this dries on hard, and if that sprocket was to ever loosen, well, the nuts, if it ever loosen, it gets a nice little crack in it, and before you ride the bike, if you ever do a visual check, it's really easy to spot. Also, I like the color, and it's a touch from the racing world. I got my front sprocket in place, the nuts hand tightened. Now I could use my tool on the close position, and we're gonna just put this against the frame where it sits. From here, down, there you go. Now I think that was the easiest front sprocket change I've done, thanks to this little tool that's right here by Alpha Racing. Now it's securely right on torque spec, and I'm going to bend these pieces inwards just so that we can secure it. That's that securing washer that's in place. And next we'll get it to cutting our new chain, getting it on there and riveting it on. Guys, I have both chains on the ground. I didn't want to touch the stock chain because it's full of the wax. It's so sticky, kind of counterintuitive to have such a wax on there that's so sticky. It's going to pick up all the dirt and grime, but I'm not going to rant. I have them laid side by side because I pulled the axle all the way back on the bike to make sure that I could run the longest wheelbase. And you're wondering why. No, I don't roll race, but if I ever want to get on the throttle on the bike, I want to make sure that that front end stays low. And that's what that is, right? You could adjust your wheelbase by the chain tension technically, but you also want to make sure that the tension is correct, but the links will dictate that wheelbase at the end. So I pulled the wheelbase all the way back so that I could see if I could add a link or two, and we were able to do it. The stock one is 122 links. We're going to run 124 links. Again, the agility changes. Obviously, the longer the wheelbase, the less agile the bike is. Shorter the wheelbase, the more agile for the slow corners. This is a street bike. We're not doing any track days or anything like that with it. And even if we're doing, I don't think I'm at a level of a pro rider that's going to come and tell you that, oh, let's adjust the wheelbase to make it more agile. Either way, that's why it's on the ground. And while I have them side by side and I'm already touching this nasty chain, I'll show you what the difference between a 520 and 525 chain is. Basically, if you take a look at them side by side, the 520 chain is thinner. And obviously that's where the weight savings come from. Also, the materials that are used for the end caps on some chains is forged. I'm not sure if it's forged on the ERV3s, but EK3D chains are all forged end caps. That's also where the weight savings come from. But if you put them side by side, you see it's clearly a thinner chain. So the new chain is 1900 grams, so that's 1.9 kilos. Don't forget, it's 2 links longer than the stock chain. Let me weigh the stock chain in grams. And that's 2450. Let me get my calculator out. Let me calculate this, and I'll also convert it to pounds and ounces so that we could see how much weight we save before we put everything back on the bike. So I did our calculations, guys. I'm so surprised how even the number that came out was in grams. I knew that we were going to save a bunch of weight, but I didn't know it's going to be this even. So the stock setup is 3,461 grams. And the 520 sprocket kit that we put on the bike with the extra link is 2,461 grams. That means it's exactly 1,000 grams lighter, which is a kilo. That's 2.205 pounds. That's huge weight savings, guys, in terms of when you think about the rotational mass that it takes to rotate that. That's a lot, and it's going to benefit us when we're on the dyno, or even if you're riding on the road. You have less rotating mass to spin. That means that there's more power that's going to go to the ground rather than getting lost throughout that transition of trying to spin all that weight. And we're not going to stop there with the sprocket setup, guys. Obviously, we're saving a bunch of weight, 2.205 pounds with our 520 conversion kit. We are waiting for our forged magnesium wheels from Marchesini. They're a little special order because you have to be a race team to be able to get it. We've been waiting for 4 months. Hopefully it makes its way here before this goes on the dyno, because I want to optimize the weight loss for that rotational mass before we go on the dyno. But till then, let's get this chain on the bike so that we could at least have a bike in riding form. And then if they make it for the dyno, they'll be here. But let's get this on the bike.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Guys, we're fast forward into the future. The bike's done, the video isn't, so don't go anywhere. But we had a glitch with the audio, and I wanted to touch base on some of the points that are important for me to be speaking and give you guys the audio. I want to give you guys a good review, a proper review of the DID chain tool, because it's the first time I'm using it. I'm happy to report it works fantastic. The PBR chain tool by Motion Pro is great, but I think DID one-ups it for the ease of use. I think that's the main thing. It's really hard to screw up your pressing and your riveting with this. On the video clip that you see right now, you'll see me pressing and riveting our chains master link, and it's really, really foolproof. And I take my calipers, my vernier calipers, to check the spread on that rivet that I'm making. And you'll see me measure it with the vernier calipers to make sure the spread on that rivet end is correct size when you measure it against the stock rivets that are on the chain from the factory. So that being said, this chain tool gets an A+ review from us. It is a little pricey, I think, compared to the PBR chain tool, but it's on our website and available for you guys now. And the next thing I want to mention to you guys is this beautiful carbon fiber kickstand. Don't be alarmed, it's not fully carbon fiber. It is lighter than the stock unit, but it does have some aluminum inside to strengthen it. It looks beautiful. And if you see me put it next to the stock kickstand, it is the exact same height. So it's not taller, the bike's not gonna sit upright. It's gonna sit at the exact correct angle when the kickstand is put down. And that's our kickstand, guys. And that's it, guys. That's my interruption for you guys. Let's get back to the video. This is our electronics cover, guys. It covers the electronics that are here. This is our carbon piece. BMW could have given this in carbon. I guess they decided to just keep the plastic one on there. Not that it really matters, but the plastic one weighs at 56 grams and the carbon one weighs in at 40 grams. So carbon's still lighter, guys. This is our stock quick shifter, guys. It does a really good job. I think it has one of the best OEM quick shifters. The difference from what we're doing right now is, take a look at this. This springs in quite a bit, and that's what that spongy feel on your toe peg comes in terms of the shifter side. And this Alpha Racing one is a cell-based unit. It is really hard to even do that, so you get more of a direct feel when on your shifter toe peg. And also this thing works a little better than the OEM one. Supposedly the shifts are faster. I don't think we could measure the milliseconds. But also when you get this quick shifter from us, guys, we supply the shorter rod. You need this because Alpha Racing is so racing oriented. They give it to you just like this. And if you don't have the rod, unless you're running a race rear set or reverse shift, you're not going to be able to use this. But if you get it from us, we always give you this shorter rod. So that's it, guys. We did a little bit of a bling and a little bit of a go on this episode. We did save 2.2 pounds with our 520 conversion kit. And we did add some little functionality in terms of feel to the bike with this quick shifter. I think it actually looks great too because it's black. And in terms of looks, we did add our carbon fiber electronics cover and our carbon fiber kickstand, which did further save some more weight. And I think that's pretty much it. And we're going to be continuing on with our progress to make sure this bike is dyno ready so that we could get our final dyno numbers on this bike. Until then, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Until next time, guys, have a good one.